Alright, what's going on guys? It's your boy Dugan, back to make the internet just a little bit worse with the swanky ranking of every shaman, aka Jujutsu Sorcerer, in Jujutsu Kaisen.
What drives you, you psychopath?
Yeah, this is going to be a minefield of differing opinions and interpretations, but thanks to the Sorcerer grading system and my incredible IQ, this was actually a piece of cake. We're of course ranking by strength and overall combat prowess, with a cut and dry explanation of each character and their power. We're not going to get too in depth today, but you can request what Jujutsu Kaisen explanation you want next in the comments, and check out my JJK playlist as well. This video is going to contain heavy manga spoilers, so with that said, let's dive on in. Let's start off with Shoko Ieri, who originally I wasn't going to include because she doesn't really exercise curses and is strictly a healer. She is a graduate of Jujutsu High, she was actually a classmate of Gojo, but she was never really needed on any dangerous missions. Currently she's the doctor of the Tokyo school and is very talented in her field because she's a natural at reverse curse technique, allowing her to use positive curse energy. Reverse curse technique is actually very difficult to pull off. Gojo, who's pretty much the most gifted sorcerer alive, struggled to learn it. But using reverse curse technique to heal somebody else is something Gojo still cannot do. So yeah, I felt like Shoko was at least worth the mention in this video. Next I have Mai Zenin, the younger sister of Maki Zenin. She's a second year at the Kyoto school and a grade 3 shaman. Mai's curse technique is the ability Construction, which uses curse energy to create an object from nothing. But unlike a domain, the objects continue to exist once the technique resolves. Mai only really uses her technique to create bullets for a revolver that she uses to exercise curses. Her major weakness is only being able to create one bullet a day due to the amount of curse energy it requires and the adverse effects it has on her body. If her power doesn't sound that great, that's because it's not. Sometimes she draws her weapon for no reason, like an American police officer. Fuck the police, I ain't taking no ticket. Who gave you scary ass? Anyways, Mai was defeated pretty easily by Maki, and that's why she's not higher on the list. Next, there's Kasumi Miwa, a second year Kyoto student, grade 3 sorcerer, and Gojo fangirl. Kasumi uses the new shadow style, which is a method of swordsmanship enhanced by cursed energy. Kasumi's simple domain, not to be confused with a domain expansion, is a technique that counters any one and any cursed technique that enters a 2.21 meter radius of the user. That's over 7 feet from my American friends. This domain technique was originally created by Sadatsuna Ashiya during the Heian period, when Jujutsu sorcery was at its peak, designed to protect his disciples from curses and curse users. The simple domain is at its full potential with the Bato sword drawing technique, which speeds up the drawing of the sword with cursed energy. Best used when the enemy is directly in front of you. The biggest weakness of the simple domain is that your feet have to remain planted or the technique will end, keeping to its original use of defense, which is Kasumi's best strength. Despite Kasumi's skills with the sword, Maki was able to throw her own weapons as a decoy and use her speed to close the gap, overpowering and disarming Kasumi with Aikido. This is thanks to Maki's insane physical prowess. So yeah, Kasumi has a very cool technique, but it's kinda one note and she's majorly lacking in her offensive capabilities, is why she's not higher up. The vibes are off. Next we have a third year at the Kyoto school and grade 2 shaman, Momo Nishimiya. Her curse technique allows her to control her broom remotely. Momo can fly around on it with a high degree of control and maneuverability. The broom can also release curse energy and strong gusts of wind. Because sorcerers are assigned to combat curses of similar grade, the sorcerer is expected to be of a significantly higher skill level than a curse of the same grade. So this puts a grade 3 shaman about on par with the grade 2 curse. Or for example, Momo, who's a grade 2 shaman, is probably about on par with the grade 1 curse. During the Goodwill event, Momo got a couple good hits in on Nobara, but she was mainly keeping away, and overall she was holding back in fear of a sneak attack from Inumaki's curse words technique. But after getting caught in Nobara's straw doll resonance, Momo is nearly eliminated until she's saved by a shot from Mai. I think Momo can be a bit tougher of an opponent than what we've seen. She just kinda underestimated Nobara in that situation. So yeah, it'd be cool to see Momo some mo. Next we have Nobara Kugisaki, a first year at the Tokyo school who's currently being assessed for grade 1 because her technique has a very high ceiling. She uses the straw doll technique. By using curse energy, Nobara is able to control or do direct damage to an opponent by linking them with an effigy. There's 4 major variables when it comes to the effectiveness of straw doll resonance: the range, the targeted body part, the connection to the opponent, and the opponent's skill level. Because of anime. Straw doll resonance requires a part of the curse like a limb or appendage to establish the connection, but other mediums imbued with the opponent's curse energy can work, like when Nobara grabbed a fiber from Momo's broom. Now Nobara can damage special grades with resonance, we've seen it, but it's reliant on her being able to link her curse energy to the opponent, which of course isn't always easy to do. One of Nobara's greatest feats is fighting against Kichizu and Iso, who are special grade curse spirits. But that's not a fight she could have won without Yuji being there. And later on in Shibuya, Nobara fights one of Geto's curse users, who uses Nita as a hostage to get the upper hand. Then Nanami shows up, and the aforementioned curse user can't even put a scratch on him, showing Nobara that she might not be quite ready for grade 1. Nobara can also imbue nails with curse energy and use her hammer to hit them at the opponent with precision. When the nails stick into the target, Nobara can then trigger her curse energy to flow through the nails, causing them to drive deeper for more damage. She calls this attack hairpin. Over the course of the first 100 or so chapters, Nobara has gained a fair bit of combat experience. Her physical attributes are still somewhat lacking, but we all love Nobara. She's a little more than feisty, she's a total psycho and does not go down easily. Alright, next we have Utahime Iori. Utahime is a character whose curse technique we still haven't seen, but we still gotta rank her somehow. She's currently a teacher at the Kyoto school and a semi-grade 1 shaman. Now the semi-grade 1 title is given upon receiving recommendation from 2 or more grade 1 sorcerers and being deemed worthy after joining a grade 1 sorcerer on several missions. But the grade 1 title is not determined until you attempt a grade 1 mission independently. So this means Utahime's abilities are at least close to that of a grade 1 sorcerer. Utahime is actually 3 years older than Gojo. She was a full-fledged grade 2 sorcerer when he was still a second year, and she does not like Gojo very much as he has a long history of teasing Utahime despite her seniority. And Gojo has said he doesn't pick on Mei Mei cause she's actually strong. So there's pretty much this running joke that Utahime is weak that still goes to this day, as she's still not a full-fledged grade 1 sorcerer. Utahime does show some impressive speed and awareness when she's able to avoid a surprise attack from the curse user that would later give Nobara a lot of trouble. Unfortunately, this fight is interrupted. We just want to see what Utahime's curse technique actually is, and maybe she can get bumped up on the list. Next is Takuya Ino, a young grade 2 sorcerer currently being assessed for grade 1. Takuya works really well with Nanami and respects him greatly, to the point where he only wants to become grade 1 if Nanami recommends him, even though Nanami has stated Takuya could become semi-grade 1 in no time without his recommendation. Takuya's curse technique is the Auspicious Beast Summon. Not the Autistic Beast Summon, the Australian Beast.
Liberty bibbity.
This technique requires Takuya to cover his face and act as a spiritual medium in order to channel the power of 4 different creatures of Eastern mythology. Artistic Beef Cousin number 1, Kaichi, materializes a horn and fires it with curse energy. This attack hones in on the target. Number 2, Reiki, conjures a glob of water that Takuya manipulates. It seemingly enhances his physical attacks and maneuverability. For number 4, Ryu, electricity envelops the user's hand, forming the shape of a dragon's head. And it's nothing like Chidori, so don't say that.
Unlike nothing I've ever read before.
Now we actually don't get to see number 3, Kirin, in action, because Takuya actually loses the fight. It was his first major fight in the series, so this hurt his stock a little bit, but he was pretty much up against a reincarnated Toji Zenin. You can't really fault him for losing there, that's a huge mismatch. I know I want to see some more Takuya, and I hope he gets to become grade 1 soon. Next we have Panda, a sentient cursed corpse and greatest creation of grade 1 sorcerer Masamichi Yaga, the principal of the Tokyo school. Yaga raised Panda and trained him. Now he's a grade 2 sorcerer currently being assessed for grade 1. Being a cursed corpse, Panda is extremely strong and abnormally fast. Panda has a very unpredictable fighting style and is skilled in energy manipulation. He commonly uses curse energy to enhance his durability. Panda was able to shake off an ultra cannon from Mechamaru because the attack wasn't focused at one of his cores. Panda has 3 cores that transform his body whenever he switches between them. Panda core Core is the youngest brother and is a balanced fighter. The older brother's Core accesses Gorilla Mode, who is the power type and possesses an unblockable technique called Drumming Beat, an attack that echoes powerful curse energy following its impact. While Gorilla Core was totally overpowering Mechamaru in close quarters, you also can't forget that Mechamaru destroyed 2 of Panda's cores in this fight, and could have got the third, but Panda faked the location of his core with energy manipulation, allowing him to take a shot from Mechamaru and respond with a decisive blow. Panda's really powerful being a second year, but Mechamaru states that Gorilla Mode doesn't hit quite as hard as Aoi Todo, and we know overall Panda does have his limits, as he was easily beaten by Geto in the prequel. Special grade sorcerers are really in a league of their own, so that's not too surprising, but right now Panda Core can't really keep up with a special grade curse either. Gorilla Core on the other hand might be able to hold his own, and you can't forget that the core of the older sister has not been revealed yet either, so we're pumped to see more of Panda. Next we have Mai Zenin. She's a second year and grade 4 shaman, but now she's currently being assessed for grade 1 after her performance in the Goodwill event. What's unique about Maki is she was born unable to use curse energy at all, so she has no curse technique, and she can't even see curses without a pair of curse tool glasses. But in exchange she possesses superhuman physical capabilities comparable to the MC Yuji Itadori. Maki has immense strength as well as mastery over several weapons and the speed and reflexes to slice a shooting bullet. This is most likely due to a heavenly restriction, which binds the body, placing a limitation on the sorcerer while greatly improving another aspect of their abilities. In addition to her physical aptitude, Maki also has a special grade curse tool called Playful Cloud, which doesn't sound very threatening at all. Playful Cloud is the only special grade curse tool not imbued with a curse technique, but instead its strength is entirely dependent on the user's strength, making it a great choice for Maki. We first see Maki use it when she fought Hanami. She landed some powerful hits and showed great chemistry with Megumi. Next I have Kokichi Muta, aka Mechamaru. Kokichi was a semi-grade 1 sorcerer and second year student at the Kyoto school, using a puppet manipulation technique to fight with a mechanical body. And for people wondering why I have him ranked 2 above Panda when he lost to Panda in the Goodwill event, there's really 2 forms of Mechamaru to consider. So Mechamaru was born with a heavenly restriction that extends the range of his puppet manipulation technique and allows him to exceed his maximum output of curse energy. Due to Mechamaru's heavenly restriction, the range of his puppet manipulation stretches all of Japan, but in return it made his right arm and both legs useless, also giving him skin too sensitive for moonlight and a sharp pain in all of his pores like being poked by needles.
Some guys have all the luck. I was born with glass bones and paper skin. Every morning I break my legs, and every afternoon I break my arms. At night, I lie awake in agony until my heart attacks put me to sleep. Oh, no!
Ultimate Mechamaru's Ultra Cannon is a heat wave of cursed energy fired from his hand, but he also possesses Albatross mode, revealing the much more powerful Ultimate Cannon. And then there's sword option. Mechamaru has hidden blades, boosters, and spikes, which allows Mechamaru to modify his arms on the fly for close quarters combat. Now despite all of Mechamaru's power, he said he'd leave the entire world of sorcery behind for a healthy body.
Ripped out here, boy. If you don't see your veins, guess what? You fat.
Which ultimately led him to making a deal with Mahito. And that brings us to the healed form of Kokichi. After being healed, he's forced into a battle against Mahito, where for the first time he displays Ultimate Mechamaru Mode Absolute. This is an armored puppet Kokichi spent years tinkering with in solitude. This machine can fire years worth of Kokichi's stockpiled cursed energy. Its Ultra Cannon fires 1 year of accumulated cursed energy. Miracle Cannon fires 2 years, 1 from each hand. And he can even fire 5 homing blasts at a time, called Vision Viola. Mechamaru Mode Absolute was overpowering and outpacing Mahito, until Mahito uses his domain expansion, which Kokichi then counters with a simple domain from a capsule designed to seal and store curse techniques. If you're watching this video, I'm assuming you know what happens next. Next we have Toge Inumaki, who is a second year at the Tokyo school and a semi-grade 1 shaman. Inumaki is a curse speech user. He imbues his words with curse energy, and whatever he says is inflicted on whoever hears it. Inumaki comes from a clan of curse speech users who created the seal that makes their technique possible. That's the serpent eyes and fangs that are imprinted on Inumaki's cheek and tongue. Curse speech is extremely volatile, so to avoid any mishaps, Inumaki speaks in code, but the only words he says are rice ball fillings. Sounds very inconvenient, but this technique is highly effective against cursed spirits and can take out multiple enemies at once. The greater the command is, the more it'll take out of Inumaki, and if the degree of difficulty is too high, it can backfire. However, we've seen Inumaki's curse words used successfully against a special grade curse user, Geto, in the prequel, although he rebounded very easily. According to Noritoshi, if a sorcerer knows the curse words are coming, they can be stopped by flowing curse energy from your inner ear to your brain, but most who are not privy to this information will be at a disadvantage. Repeated use of cursed speech or just a high-level command puts stress on Inumaki's voice and throat, even making him cough up blood. He did a great job fending off Hanami for a bit in the Goodwill event arc, but ended up overusing his ability, putting him out of the fight. Inumaki is a very powerful sorcerer, but his curse technique has a huge drawback. And next we have Yuji Itadori, our MC. As we all know, he gained curse energy from eating one of Sukuna's fingers. Now he shares a body with the king of curses. This is chapter 1, people. Since we're only ranking Jujutsu sorcerers, we're only going to be discussing regular curse energy Yuji, not Sukuna controlled. Yuji is a probationary Jujutsu sorcerer who is really good at fighting.
I beat the shit out one of these, boy. Straight up, niggas don't want to fight no.
Yuji's to be executed after he eats all of the Sukuna fingers, but for the time being he's a freshman at Tokyo Jujutsu High, in a class taught by Satoru Gojo, of course, who stated that in due time Yuji's body will learn Sukuna's curse technique, which is still a mystery, and I'm not going to be getting into any theories on that today. As mentioned earlier, Yuji has physical prowess that is on par with Maki. Hanami actually stated that Yuji's agility is superior to Maki's, for whatever that's worth. Yuji is very skilled at martial arts, and his flow of curse energy makes him even more powerful. Yuji has a natural delay in the flow of his cursed energy that acts as a second and more powerful hit on the target after Yuji's initial strike. According to Gojo, this is way easier said than done for most people, but for some reason it happens naturally for Yuji. This is known as his divergent fist, but after learning to keep a constant flow of cursed energy throughout his entire body, he can perform divergent fist only when he wants to. After improving his flow of cursed energy, Yuji was able to match a record held by Nanami for most consecutive uses of Black Flash. A Black Flash occurs when making an impact of curse energy within 1/1,000,000th of a second behind a physical hit. This creates a distortion in space. The curse energy flashes black and causes 2.5 times the damage on impact.
Now that's a lot of damage!
It said that no Jujutsu sorcerer can do this on command, but it stated that for those who have experienced Black Flash versus those who have not, the difference in their understanding of the essence of curse energy is immeasurable. Anyways, in the Shibuya arc, Mei stated that Yuji is on par with the grade 1 sorcerer at this point, and he's the first to be this good without a curse technique since grade 1 sorcerer Kusakabe. I mean, we've seen Yuji go toe to toe with special grade curse spirits on multiple occasions. What else is there really to say about Yuji Itadori? He's only going to get higher on the list as the series progresses. Next I have Megumi Fushigoro. He's a first year at the Tokyo school, enrolled as a grade 2 sorcerer, and is currently currently being assessed for grade 1. So Megumi possesses the 10 Shadows technique, which I literally did for the previous video. So I'm gonna end up repeating myself a little bit, and I might even reuse some of last video's footage. F***ing sue me. The user can conjure up to 10 different Shikigami using shadows as an intermediary, while most Shikigami users require the use of a charm or talisman, so the 10 shadows is said to be more practical. I mean, that's cool and all, but why is Megumi ranked above Yuji Itadori? Megumi and Yuji will be going back and forth the entire series with almost interchangeable rankings. At the beginning of this series, Megumi was more powerful due to his curse technique, while Yuji just had physical prowess and used a curse tool for a little bit. But it was Gojo's training that started to form Yuji into a competent sorcerer, and during the Goodwill Event arc, Yuji succeeded in holding off Hanami when Megumi failed to do so. I mean, Yuji snapped during the Goodwill Event arc, while the backup and overall support of Aoi Todo pushed him to new heights in that fight. But given the full context of the series, at the time I upload this video, I give the higher ranking to Megumi. Gojo has stated that Megumi's skill and potential are most likely higher than Yuji's, and Sukuna shows great interest in Megumi and his curse technique. The 10 Shadows was originated in the Zenin family, one of the 3 big families, so naturally they value this technique highly as well, especially because they love rare curse techniques. When Megumi was only 6 years old, he was almost sold off to the Zenin family, after he and his stepsister Sumaki were abandoned by both of their parents. And then Satoru Gojo stepped in, helping Megumi receive financial support from the Tokyo school, so he and Sumaki could stay together. In exchange, Megumi just had to attend the Tokyo school when he's of age and become a full-fledged Jujutsu sorcerer. Now, despite not having the best win-loss record, Megumi has progressed rapidly since the beginning of the series. When one of his Shikigami is destroyed, its power is passed on to another one, making it stronger. This occurred with Megumi's divine dogs after the White Hound was destroyed, allowing Megumi to summon a more powerful version of the Black Hound, Divine Dog Totality. This Shikigami is capable of damaging special grade curse spirits and has speed comparable to special grade as well. And in the Origin of Obedience arc, he became one of 2 sorcerers that have used a domain expansion so far in the series. Next we have Noritoshi Kamo, a 3rd year at the Kyoto school and a semi-grade 1 sorcerer. Noritoshi is next in line to be head of the Kamo family, another one of the big 3 families, because he possesses their curse technique, blood manipulation. And when Noritoshi claimed that age is irrelevant when it comes to Jujutsu sorcery, especially with Fushigoro, we knew we were in for an interesting matchup between 2 techniques that originated from the big 3 families, the most prominent sorcerer clans. The Goodwill event began, and it became apparent the Kyoto team were trying to execute Yuji. This is when Megumi and Noritoshi clashed. They're later seen with Noritoshi firing arrows that he can freely guide with blood manipulation due to traces of blood on the arrows fletching. Megumi easily survives this. Noritoshi suggests that Megumi is holding back, due to him only using 1 Shikigami at a time. This was because Megumi's Black Hound was scouting with Inumaki at the time, also leaving him unable to summon Chaos Jade Hound, his most powerful Shikigami. Noritoshi switches to close quarters, activating an ability called Dynamic Red Phosphorus, or just flowing red scale in the Viz translation. This ability manipulates the body temperature, pulse rate, the number of red blood cells, and blood composition. The result is a huge increase in Noritoshi's strength and speed, easily outclassing Megumi. He still compliments Megumi on his skills in hand-to-hand, which are advanced for a Shikigami user. Noritoshi in this fight was very confident in his ability to win, even expressing sympathy for Megumi, but that's not to discredit Megumi's ability to keep up. In fact, Megumi was able to briefly gain the upper hand by launching a surprise attack from behind with a hidden Shikigami as a fake out, and then following with the destructive power of Max Elephant. But Noritoshi was quickly able to recover and counter a blow from Megumi's Nue with his Crimson Binding. This is when Hanami and Inumaki enter the fray. Noritoshi uses his blood manipulation to launch a razor-sharp projectile at Hanami, called Slicing Exorcism, which deals no damage, but soon after he performs the piercing blood technique. Noritoshi compresses and condenses his blood to the limit, then claps his hands, firing it through a single point. It's the secret technique of blood manipulation, said to travel at the speed of sound. This was the first attack to damage Hanami, revealing that Noritoshi was holding back in his previous fight, much to Megumi's surprise. But then Noritoshi gets distracted by Inumaki collapsing and is instantly pummeled out of the fight. GG. No! Atsuya Kusakabe is a grade 1 sorcerer and teaches the second years at the Tokyo school. He is a user of the new shadow style like Kasumi, and was also shown using the Bato sword drawing technique, taking out multiple curse users in an instant. Kusakabe can use another technique that we haven't seen from the new shadow style called Evening Moon sword drawing, but it was interrupted before it could play out. When Kusakabe was first introduced in the Shibuya arc, he seemed like a very laid back and confident sorcerer, but that was kind of a troll because Kusakabe is a big coward. He actively made up excuses to avoid the enemies that captured Gojo in fear of being killed by a special grade curse spirit. Many grade 1s have defeated a special grade at some point, but special grade curse spirits can vary in strength. Mahito, as well as his crew, who are known as high-grade imagined apparitions, or the special grade potential spirits in the Viz translation, are far more powerful than your average special grade. Now, despite Kusakabe's efforts, he and Panda get thrown directly into a fight between Jogo and Sukuna, getting caught in the crossfire of an attack from Jogo. We don't know Kusakabe's current status, if he's alive or not, but maybe we'll see him do some cool shit later. Until then, Kusakabe is trash, GG. Grade 1 sorcerer Kento Nanami left his life of sorcery behind to focus on a career as a salaryman, make a shit ton of money, and retire. But after 4 years, Nanami opts for a life of greater purpose and returns to work for the Tokyo Magic School as a sorcerer. Nanami is 1 year younger than Gojo and is one of his most trusted colleagues and user of the ratio technique, which divides the target in 10, creating a weak point at the ratio of 7-3. Every time the weak point is struck, it lands as a critical hit. This technique is able to target an opponent's limbs, and it also works on inanimate objects, like how Nanami collapsed an entire stone wall. Not only has Nanami's curse technique given him insane striking power, but he's also placed on himself 2 binding vows that increase his curse energy. The first one limits Nanami's curse energy while on the clock for Jujutsu High, but once he begins to work overtime hours, he gets a massive boost in power. The second one increases Nanami's power after divulging the details of his own technique. Nanami at full power was enough to shock Mahito, so it kinda came as a surprise when he got completely obliterated by Jogo. Yeah, let's hope Shoko can heal that. Next we have Mei, a highly experienced Jujutsu sorcerer, who was a grade 1 sorcerer back when Gojo was still a student. Mei's curse technique is Blackbird Manipulation, which allows her to control crows, and that's about it. And according to Mei herself, this technique isn't particularly strong, so she's been training since she was young to be highly effective without a curse technique. But after reaching the limits of her physical abilities, she decided to master her curse technique and bloomed into the grade 1 sorcerer she is today. We saw Mei slice off the hands of the smallpox deity with one swing of her axe, cutting through powerful special grades like butter, and finishing off the curse spirit with an attack called Bird Strike. Mei forces a crow to sacrifice its life in the form of a binding vow, which erases the limits on its curse energy and is then launched at the enemy. This is the true value of Mei's curse technique, and nobody except for Gojo has ever survived this attack. Mei is at her best when fighting alongside her brother Ui, mostly due to his ability to perform a simple domain and nullify any domain expansion they may get caught in. Their duo is absolutely ridiculous, but Mei herself is easily one of the most powerful grade 1 sorcerers due to how well rounded she is. We fucking love Mei. Aoi Todo is a grade 1 sorcerer and easily the most powerful student at the Kyoto school. His curse technique is called Boogie Woogie. It allows him to switch places with anyone or anything within a certain range by clapping his hands. But Todo can also clap without using the technique to fake out opponents, A simple but effective strategy. Hanami found battling against this technique very troublesome, and it also played a big role in Todo and Yuji surviving their battle against him. But also Todo's ability as a close-range fighter is among the top characters in the series currently. Not only did he successfully fend off Hanami, but during Geto's attack on Japan during Volume 0, it said Todo by himself fought and defeated 5 grade 1s and a special grade at once, and only using his curse technique against the special grade. Todo is a beast, and that's the best way to describe him. His understanding of the flow of curse energy is woke, to say the least, as he began to instruct Yuji on it during their fight, and even helped Yuji achieve Black Flash for the first time. We love Todo. I'm sure we'll see plenty of him. I mean, his skills are even recognized by Gojo, who lumped him in with Yuta and Hakuri when mentioning how the current students are much stronger nowadays, and the current generation will go beyond special grade. And speaking of special grade, Todo was most likely trained by one of the 4 special grade shaman, which would be another reason as to why he's so hacks. Next we have Hakuri, whose segment will be kinda limited due to how little we know about him, but there's still a lot of hype surrounding this character. He's currently the only 3rd year student at the Tokyo school, and like I mentioned for Todo earlier, Hakuri is one of those sorcerers that are pretty much raising the bar for students. Unlike Todo or Yuta, who was the MC of Volume 0, we have not seen Hakuri in the series outside of this panel. They said he was suspended when the Goodwill event was taking place, but we don't know why. What we do know is that Gojo says that Hakuri will be as good as him someday, meaning Hakuri has the chance to one day rival Gojo as a sorcerer, which we all know is a huge claim, so put Hakuri in the mix. We want to see his technique. We need it. Next we have Yoshinobu Gakuganji. He's the current principal of the Kyoto school, and Gojo pretty much hates this guy and everything he stands for. Gakuganji's curse technique amplifies the melodies he plays on his guitar, and is sent out as a shockwave of curse energy. You could say he puts the boom in Boomer. That's a terrible joke. I would never say that.
Really want to put my logo on that one?
For a brief moment, he faced off against a powerful curse user named Juzo, who's seemingly on the level of a grade 1, but of course Gojo stepped in, ending the fight in an instant. While we've only seen Gakuganji in action a limited amount, and he has a pretty cool curse technique, he didn't really make a huge impression with his power. Although Gakuganji's intent was not to kill his opponent, but subdue him and bring him in for questioning. Honestly, I mainly have Gakuganji ranked based on his status in the Jujutsu world, being head of the school, and having some level of authority among sorcerers. So I'm kind of giving him the benefit of the doubt right now. Hopefully we get to see more of Yoshinobu to really see what he can do. Next we have Masamichi Yaga, a grade 1 sorcerer and the current principal of the Tokyo school. Yaga is the foremost practitioner of the Cursed Corpse technique. A Cursed Corpse is a non-living object that is endowed with the curse and gains self-control, so the object becomes animated. Yaga infuses this curse into dolls that he makes by hand and has them fight for him. Just one of his dolls named Kathy beat up Yuji a good bit during his enrollment, while Yaga merely stood there, but we can assume he's highly skilled in close combat because he is the one who trained Panda, who's a very adept fighter. And while Panda is considered his greatest creation because he's sentient and has emotions, Yaga still has many cursed corpses that we haven't seen, and probably has one that surpasses Panda in strength. That's my guess. It's not confirmed, and I'm hoping we get to see Yaga in a serious fight soon. Alright, next we have Naobito Zenin, head of the Zenin clan and a supreme grade 1 sorcerer. His curse technique, Projection Sorcery, allows the user to trace all movement in their field of view by dividing 1 second into 24 frames. When the technique is activated, anything Naobito touches with the palm of his hand must follow the predetermined set of movements, or it gets frozen within a frame for 1 second. This ability came with a natural born sense of strategic movement and timing, and Naobito became the fastest sorcerer in the series, besides Satoru Gojo. Naobito, while drunk, was easily outspeeding and overpowering Dagon, overall carrying his team in the fight against the special grade, until they get caught in Dagon's domain expansion. Dagon activates the guaranteed hit of the domain known as Death Swarm, which spawns an endless stream of Shikigami. But Naobito can perform an anti-domain technique that's passed down the big three families, known as Seeker Art Falling Blossom Emotion. It's a technique designed to counter the guaranteed hit of any domain. Naobito begins to block the attack, but the mass amount of Shikigami obstruct his view, and Dagon, being stronger and faster from the domain, is able to close the gap, and Naobito is sent flying, unable to block the next attack, which takes his arm. This is when Megumi forces a hole in the domain with his own, in an attempt to help his allies escape. But right behind him comes his father, Toge Zenin, who easily defeats Dagon, stopping the domain. Naobito's team is then thrown into a fight with Jogo, but Naobito is now moving way slower due to losing his arm in the previous fight, and like the rest of his team, Naobito is decimated with a single attack. Despite the way things went down during the Shibuya incident, Naobito is not average even among grade 1 sorcerers, and the events of the Shibuya incident are about to change the entire series. Next we have Suguru Geto, and so far on this list I have not included any curse users, but we know Geto was once a Jujutsu sorcerer for the school, and there's even an awesome flashback arc of it, so I'm including him because the list wouldn't feel right without him. Because Geto is one of the 4 special grade shaman, so he's one of the most powerful sorcerers alive, though I use the term alive loosely because technically he was killed at the end of volume 0, and is now being controlled by another entity, but Geto was once a classmate, friend, and rival of Satoru Gojo, before being expelled from the Jujutsu Sorcerers for murdering 100 civilians while on a mission. Geto later releases 2,000 curses in Japan as an attack on all non-sorcerers. He can do this because Geto's technique is curse manipulation. After defeating a curse, Geto can then summon and control it as he desires. This is done by absorbing the curse into a black orb and ingesting it, which is said to taste like a rag used to wipe up vomit, but he gulps it like a glizzy out here. There's seemingly no limit to the number of cursed spirits Geto can keep at his disposal, and he can even control special grades. He's also very skilled at hand-to-hand combat for a Shikigami user, as he easily beat Panda with his bare hands. And look how he beats the shit out of this old man. Ages him twice in one video. That's pretty fucking cringe, bro. There's a lot to unpack when it comes to Geto's character, but his power is pretty simple, and this was originally just supposed to be a ranking video, and I kind of gotten carried away up till now. Next we have Yuki Tsukumo, who is a special grade shaman, and in her own words, she's the no good special grade who doesn't take any missions and bums around overseas. Now Yuki doesn't see eye to eye with the school on how curses are dealt with, as she wants to get to the root of the cause and create a world where curses no longer appear. Easier said than done for sure. So far we've only seen Yuki in flashbacks, first occasion being when she met Aoi Todo, and it's implied they developed a mentor-student connection, as we know Todo will ask people what kind of girls they're into to get an understanding of who they are as a person, and he picked this up from Yuki. Now in the panel of the Todo flashback, we can clearly see something chilling with Yuki, some type of creature sort of wrapped around her, something that definitely seems like it could be a curse or Shikigami, which could be a sign that Yuki is some sort of curse manipulator or Shikigami user, but who really knows for sure. JJ could pull something totally unexpected. I just can't wait to see Yuki in the current story. It's gonna be sick. Next we have Yuta Akatsu, yet another special grade shaman. Yuta is currently a second year at the Tokyo school, but right now he's abroad. Yuta was the MC of volume 0, the prequel to Jujutsu Kaisen, and we all can't wait till he shows up in the main story. After the tragic death of his beloved girlfriend Rika, Yuta's curse power manifests, unknowingly cursing Rika when he was unable to accept her death, ultimately turning her into a vengeful spirit so strong it's been dubbed the Queen of Curses. Yuta's power is like an endless mass of curse energy that can be shaped at will, giving him the ability to unconditionally copy curse techniques. It's believed Yuta was able to unconsciously curse Rika because he's a descendant of the great Sugawara no Mishizane, who was a powerful and renowned sorcerer, as well as one of the 3 great Japanese vengeful spirits, and this relation makes him a distant relative of Satoru Gojo. Fun fact. Anyways, Yuta fights with a katana that he uses to stabilize and channel his curse energy, and he became rather skilled with it over time by training with Maki. At some point during his first year, Yuta competed in the Goodwill event and made it a one-sided affair against Aoi Todo and the other Kyoto students that participated. Yuta is arguably the most talented shaman in the entire series. His rate of progression is unmatched by almost every other sorcerer on this list. He was able to heal his classmates from near death, which can only be done from the positive curse energy of reverse curse technique. Shoko is the only other character who can use reverse curse technique to heal others. Gojo isn't even capable of doing this. Yuta was also able to perform Inumaki's curse speech technique, shown when he picked up Inumaki's megaphone with the snake eyes and fangs symbol. And after only a year of being a shaman, Yuta was able to face off against Suguru Geto and win. An insane feat to say the least. We all can't wait to see what Yuta brings to the main series. Next we have Toge Zenin, another curse user, but he was once a member of the Zenin family. Also, Toge Zenin is a fan favorite character, so I really wanted to include him. Toge Zenin, who at some point became known as the Sorcerer Killer, was the biological father of Megumi Fushigoro, although he left when Megumi was still very young. Now, during Toji's time with the Zenin family, he heard about a boy who possessed the Six Eyes and went to sneak a look. But due to the ability of the Six Eyes, the boy easily picked up on Toji's presence, and this was the first and last time anyone was aware of Toji's presence when he stood behind them. And soon after, Toji leaves the Zenin family. Many years later, these two are forced into a battle as part of their respective missions. While Satoru Gojo was assigned to escort the Star Plasma vessel Riko Amanai to Jujutsu High, Toji was assigned by a separate organization to assassinate her. Toji posts a bounty on her to all curse users, knowing they won't be able to complete the mission, all just to weaken Satoru Gojo before their fight. Gojo uses his curse technique non-stop for 3 days, leaving him unable to sleep, all to ensure the safety of Riko Amanai, and this causes him to become mentally and physically drained, all according to Toji's plan. At this point in the timeline, Toji possesses no curse energy whatsoever, making him undetectable by the Six Eyes, and also with immense speed, far greater than any other sorcerer in the series. This is believed to be from a heavenly restriction that took place at some point after he saw Gojo as a kid, but Toji could be on something greater, not only because his raw strength and speed far exceed Maki's, who also has a heavenly restriction, but he's the only known case of a sorcerer eradicating their curse energy completely. After doing so, his body became sharpened to the point he developed a resistance to curses, with the ability to sense curses with his 5 senses. Another huge factor in the Toji versus Gojo fight is of course Toji's special grade curse tool, the Inverted Spear of Heaven, which has the ability to stop any curse technique. This was able to nullify Gojo's limitless curse technique that usually makes him untouchable. Gojo is seemingly defeated at this point. Toji then goes on to complete his mission, assassinating Riko, and is able to easily defeat Geto as well. But Gojo, who should have been dead, pulled off a miracle that day by pulling off a reverse curse technique and healing his fatal wound. And in their final confrontation, Gojo kills Toji.
Rest in pepperonis, you ugly bitch!
I talk a bit more about their fight in my Gojo Explained video, but with that said, it brings us to the strongest sorcerer and currently the strongest character in Jujutsu Kaisen, which of course is Satoru Gojo. Like I said, I did an explain video on Gojo's curse technique, the Limitless, and I don't mean to brag, but I'd say I have the best explanation of this technique out there, so I highly recommend that video if you haven't watched it. It'll also explain how Gojo perfected the Limitless so he never again comes so close to defeat. What else is there really to say about Gojo? Nobody even comes close to him in power and influence. This is of course due to him being the first in 100 years to possess the Six Eyes and Limitless curse technique. One look from this kid had powerful curse users shit their pants and retire, like I will if this video doesn't do really well. That's pretty much all for right now. There's a lot of unnamed sorcerers in this series that work for the clans and even the schools, but this video is really just a reason for me to talk about my favorite characters in a series I like a lot. I really could have said more in all of the segments of this video, but like I said earlier, I was just getting carried away and forgot this was just a ranking video. I know this took me forever to get out because I kept adding more stuff to it, and now the video is really long, long, so I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you're staying well and being smart in these trying times. If you ever need to reach out to me for suggestions, want to share some news, or just shoot me a message, best way is on my Twitter, and I of course read all the comments down below in the video. I want to thank you very much for watching. It's been really real, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Peace.
And you got involved like you wanna crash, man. Got me back and reset it for that. I'm indebted for even the small things. Don't mind fuck up a check as long as you said I make this shit my calling. It's so hard to say goodbye.